It's another edition of Fight News Now. Thank you for joining us. My name is John Pollock, and another packed lineup as you are going to hear from Roxanne Modafferi, Mauro Ranallo, UFC heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez, Dominick Cruz, Luke Rockhold, and Bellator president Scott Coker on today's show. We will also be joined by John Ramdane and Robin Black as they go 3 rounds getting you set for the month of August. Priscilla Carapan presents The Shift, and it all begins with this week's Newsmakers. 2 weeks ago, Vitor Belfort was granted a license by the Nevada State Athletic Commission and will receive the next title fight against middleweight champion Chris Weidman in December. One of the men that Belfort beat along the way was Luke Rockhold in May of 2013, when Belfort was allowed an exemption for testosterone replacement therapy. Recently, Rockhold shared his views on those that have tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs.
Touching on steroids, a lot of people say that, like for you, for example, you're an athletic guy. You've obviously been an athlete your whole life. Some of these guys that get into MMA, they don't have that background. They can't rely on that stuff. So they say they need this to help them get to the same playing field as you. You don't care about that.
That's stupid. Like, I mean, where's the argument in that? Like, oh, we're all, you know, yeah. That,
it's just so frustrating.
I mean, how do you comment on that? These guys want to cheat because I was gifted, as you know, when I was born. No, I mean, what are you talking? Like, these guys. I mean, I feel bad for some of these guys. I understand they want to save their career. They have a family, and there's no other choice to live their dream. They want to fight, you know, and they're losing, and their last choice is to use steroids. And, you know, to compete and keep their dream alive and support their family. It's like, I feel for them. You know, I have friends that are in that situation, and that's what makes it hard. I've branched out. I'm a friendly guy. I get to know a lot of people in the sport, and I know who's cheating, and I know who's not. And, you know, I almost want guys, you know, my friends to do it so I can support their family and their dream. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm a purist. I'm an athlete, and I was blessed, and you know, I really just don't respect cheaters, you know, in general, and I hope they, you know, clean up the sport like it looks like they're doing. So, I mean, it's a joke, considering like how guys get treated when they get caught for steroids in MMA. They get slapped on the wrist, they get fined 6 months. I mean, they get suspended 6 months. There's really no penalty whatsoever. I mean, then you got guys like Roger Clemens, legends of the sport, who get popped and they're completely erased from the record books, and everyone just hates on them, and no one even, you know, the fans don't even care, you know, this and that. That we are out there to kill each other. We're not playing baseball. We're not riding bikes like Lance Armstrong. We're not like, we're out there to hurt each other. And these guys that have, you know, be chemically enhanced, to like, we're basically taking each other to the brink of death and giving up. You know, I mean, if any sport should be regulated, this is the sport. We're not playing games here. We're playing for keeps, and things need to change right now. And I'm sick of these guys, and that's why I feel like I want to go out there and I want to beat these guys. I want to beat them out of the sport. I take it upon myself a lot of time, and that's how I feel.
Bellator is preparing for their head-to-head card with the UFC coming up on September the 5th in Uncasville, Connecticut. The card will represent the new vision that incoming president Scott Coker is looking to implement into the product. We now hear from Coker, who spoke exclusively to John Ramdane on his goal of creating new stars under the Bellator banner.
There's enough talent for everybody, and we're gonna get our share. And you know what? We're very good at cultivating talent and building them. And then we're going to buy some, just like we did in Strikeforce with Fedor or whoever the big stars are. We're going to buy some, we're going to build some, and we're going to have a nice little robust group in the next, I would say it'll probably take a year, 18 months, but we're going to have some tremendous talent, you know, between now and then as well. Look at Quentin Jackson. We have some legends. We got Tito Ortiz. Michael Chandler's amazing. King Mo is amazing. There's some really good fighters here to work with, and I'm going to be happy to work with them. But besides the group that's here, let's build some more. Let's buy some, and then let's get it on.
UFC 178 on September the 27th is expected to be the biggest card thus far in 2014, featuring John Jones and Daniel Cormier, and a stacked main card. That show will also feature the return to the octagon for former bantamweight champion Dominick Cruz after a 35-month layoff due to injury. He spoke to Fight Network about the fight with Takeya Mizugaki and mentally preparing to cross this next hurdle.
For me, there's really no mental situation. It's just, you know, train like the guys that I'm in here with. It's That's the key, is not putting myself or separating myself from anybody. I'm just amongst the ranks, and that's where I'm at, just training, trying to get back. I want to go in there and make it look like a flow. I want to make it look like, you know, Bruce Lee said, be like water. As silly as it sounds, you hear people talk about it, but that's literally how you have to be, because there can't be any stops, there can't be any freezes. Everything's got to flow and move and work in transitions, because if you're not in transition, then somebody's going to read what you're doing. A lot of mixed martial arts in the past was one step at a time, and now as you're watching the sport evolve, it's working into transitions. 1, 2, and 3 moves are all to set up the final finish, and that's what's working out.
Over in San Jose, California, our crew was at AKA and spoke with current heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez, who recently wrapped filming on Tough Latin America, which will lead to a tentative title bout between Velasquez and Fabricio Verdum in November as the UFC enters Mexico for the first time. Velasquez spoke about fighting a fresh opponent following a trilogy with Junior Dos Santos dating back to 2011.
Yeah, we find who our opponent is, we see what stuff they're good at, what stuff that we think we could beat them at. So. And we just work on that. You know, every opponent is different. Every opponent has, you know, these strengths and not necessarily not weaknesses, but you know, things that they're not just as good at. So we'll try to just look for the best way to win this fight.
After an injury stalled his debut at the World Series of Fighting, former Strikeforce and UFC star Jake Shields will make his promotional debut on October the 11th when he meets Ryan Ford at World Series of Fighting 14 in Alberta. Shields was cut by the UFC following his loss to Hector Lombard earlier this year at UFC 171, and Fight Network caught up with his coach, Tarek Azim, to discuss his departure.
He's not done. He's got some business he wants to finish in the sport. And it's my best friend. You know, it's my best friend, my longest teammate. You know, we've been through a lot together. And the good thing about Jake and his mindset is that he's committed to something, you know, and he's committed to really doing a couple more things that he's got to do in the sport. He's not going to let, you know, his situation in the UFC kind of diffuse that, because that isn't the big show for him. You know, the big show for him is him performing at his best. And that's kind of what he's waiting to do. He's got some more performances he wants to let out, and that's what he's preparing for.
There is wide speculation regarding who will get the next opportunity to fight women's bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey. Right near the top of the list is former Elite XC and Strikeforce star Gina Carano, who has not fought since August of 2009. John Ramdeen sat down with the man that called many of Carano's bouts, and that is Mauro Ranallo, to discuss the matchmaking as the UFC's negotiations with Carano continue.
There's a reason we're talking about Gina Carano and possibly fighting Ronda Rousey 5 years after she competed and coming off a loss. It's the fact that Ronda Rousey's running out of legitimate opponents, and frankly, UFC has to maximize it. And whether, again, there'll be people that say Gina Carano doesn't deserve it. This is her business, and whatever is good for business is fine. But you do have to seriously look at what is it worth to maybe in the end be the sacrificial lamb. And I'm not saying that. I mean, maybe Gina will. I mean, it's going to be very hard because she's got to make weight. It's been 5 years, and as good as she was in her Muay Thai and as naturally gifted an athlete as she is and doing action movies and stuff, this is entirely different. And she's getting a prime and continually evolving Ronda Rousey. So it's a big name. I think it'll get mass appeal for crossover, which of course is another name of this game. Wherever you can get on SportsCenter or Entertainment Tonight, good publicity. So we'll see. I've heard from people that they don't think it will happen, but I mean, everything seems to be pointing in that direction, and I don't have a problem with it. If you have a chance to make money, you got to put the best fight forward. You got to sell yourself, man. You got to do whatever it takes to make sure that people are I guess, clicking and tweeting and watching you.
And finally, we check in with another woman that has made significant contributions to women's mixed martial arts, and that is 31-year-old Roxanne Modafferi, who has been fighting for close to 11 years and was a member of Tough Season 18. Modafferi will next fight Tara La Rosa for Invicta FC on September the 6th, and chatted about the rise of women's mixed martial arts over the past decade.
I had a feeling that once, money started to be made with female fighters, it would be an upwards domino effect. It would take, skill and beauty and exciting fights and all those things combined. More people want to see female fighters. And then, I knew it would be in the UFC someday. I'm just happy it's in my time.
And we are here with John Ramdeen, and coming up on 3 rounds, yourself and Robin Black. What are you guys diving into? Because it's a very quiet period of August, and then the last half, boy, does the UFC come back with a flurry.
That's what we're looking at. There are 2 shows coming up before the end of August. One main event is outstanding, the other not so hot.
Oh, elaborate for us.
Come on, we know. Two guys that are going to be in the main event, 205-pound fighters, even with a victory. They're nowhere near title contention, in my opinion.
It's a month where Ryan Bader, Ovince St. Preux, and Chris Carriozzo will all be in featured bouts as the UFC presents a litany of cards. And 3 rounds is coming up next, so stay tuned to Fight News Now.